Coming up on FTC Top 25, the results for the January FTC Top 25 are comprised of your votes from the community. We have teams from 3 countries and multiple US states, and let's get ready for the January POWERPLAY FTC Top 25.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for FIRST students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Check out our all-new FTC content coming to Fun's YouTube in February, including new hosts from the FTC community. We'll have resource guides, top 10 moments, behind the bots interviews, and walkthroughs to help your FTC team improve at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow.
Hi everyone, welcome to the FTC Top 25, where we reveal the top 25 teams you voted for. From First Updates Now, I'm Abbas, and joining me are Tyler and Caden for the first time. We're excited to have you all back for the POWERPLAY season, and for so many of you to participate in voting for FTC Top 25. Make sure next month you keep an eye out for when voting opens to cast your votes. We also have some awesome giveaways from Axon Robotics for one random team and one random viewer for who make the FTC Top 25 and who's tuned in tonight for the show. So stay tuned to hear how you can enter and win. Let's get right into the January FTC Top 25. Caden, who's starting off at the number 25 spot?
In 25th spot, we have team 17595 Beta BIONIX from Washington. They were part of the winning alliance at the Washington Tesla Interleague tournament. This team has been consistent all season. We saw them score a former world record of 265 back in December, which is still the 6th highest score in the world. Beta BIONIX angled slides allow them to score off the stack during auto with minimal driving back and forth. The path-through system allows for quick cycles to various junctions without having to spin the bot around to score.
Right, and Caden, you mentioned they're from Washington, right? And being one of the toughest states this season, what do you think they have to do to really elevate themselves and put themselves in even more of a competitive position for the state championship?
I would say for sure a consistent auto. That's probably like the biggest part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I did look at a couple of their match scores, and I don't know if they got all 5 cones. I know in this match it shows that they got their 1+5. But that for sure, that's the biggest thing is consistent auto.
Yeah, I think consistency just in general, it's always such a big thing, but especially at the Washington State Championship where you just have some of like the top heavy hitters. I mean, you'll just hear us say Washington, Washington, Washington all night tonight. And it's really just going to put into perspective how tough it's going to be to advance from that.
Spoiler, Sahil, or Abbas, sorry.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. But so instead of talking about Washington, let's go on across the border to Canada. So coming in 24th, we have our first international team, Team 16417, ROC from Ontario, Canada. Last month, we didn't have any footage of them, but you guys still decided to vote for them. So this time we tried extra hard, and we were able to get some footage of them, and I'm really glad that we did. Looks like they've decided from early on this season that they're not going to try and fight their opponents like on the high junction closest to the cone stacks, and they've really tuned their bot to work well to score on that far high junction. And it's really interesting how they have this extremely long intake extension, but are able to control it so smoothly and accurately. And I think that's definitely in part due to like those roller wheels at the bottom. And I'm sure they have a lot of amazing hardware and software to go on with it. Caden, I feel like this has got to be one of your first times seeing this robot. What do you think about it?
Well, it's definitely interesting that they only have like one slide that goes out, a single stage or multiple stages, but only one slide. You know, with most at least horizontal extensions, you'll see like 2 slides, but it's definitely interesting seeing only one slide and it being driving forward that straight.
Yeah, and I think Canada will be especially competitive this year. Looks like another robot on that field was also quite competitive. But let's get into our 23rd spot. In 23rd, we have a tough competitor from Worlds, MTI, just every season really good, and that's none other than Team 18438 WOLFPACK MACHINA. They were the 3rd seed captain in the Chesapeake qualifier and managed to become the winning alliance, and they put up just an absolutely amazing performance. They will be competing pretty soon at the Chesapeake Championships on February 11th, if not sooner. And I'm really excited to see what they pull up with. I know they've definitely spent a lot of time making sure their robot's more consistent and just scoring better in autonomous and teleop. But in my opinion, the thing that makes WOLFPACK so incredible is how well they're able to control such a large bot. Like, they just drive so fluidly around all the junctions and any cones on the ground or robots or whatever's in the way. They're just able to maneuver around it so easily. And I think that's definitely just a testament to a lot of driver practice, but sure, definitely also driver skill. Kaden, you want to talk about our 22nd team?
In the 22nd spot, we have our first team from Oregon on this list tonight. That is team 2808 Revamped Robotics. They are currently ranked number 2 in their league. With a horizontal and vertical lift on a turret, this team is easily able to score cones on a junction by depositing out the side of the robot. One thing that really impressed me about this bot is the speed of their intake. It looks like they have a color sensor on their claw, which could be possibly used to auto grab the cone as soon as it is in range. But it's kind of hard to say if that's for sure what they're using. I mean, it could just be good driver practice.
Yeah, and with Revamped, like you said, they're second in their league, but I guess we should definitely clarify who they're second to. It's probably going to be either Tobertech 8610 or 12599 Overcharged Robotics. So definitely a very tough league to compete in each year. And they always hold their own. It looks like this season, they're just continuing to do the same, being in the top 25 so early on in the season. So going on to our 21st spot, we have one of the best teams from last season. That's team 11212, the CLUELESS from California. They've come out guns blazing this season with a turret slides design. And the thing I'm most impressed by with them is how much stability and precision they have in their turret. I feel like something that a lot of first-time teams who are attempting turret slide designs or just turrets in general, they struggle with is that stability and repeatability in autonomous, teleop, automations, whatever. But CLUELESS, they spent so much time on that last season. I'm sure they just took all of that knowledge, carried it over this season, and have implemented it so fantastically, as we can see with that 1+5 autonomous. And going on to our top 20, our first team from Texas this month comes in at the 20th spot, being none other than 19746, the disruptingly robocephalic brainstem robotics team. They've been competing all around the U.S., both in the Texas GEMS League in Texas, as well as Colorado, and they're currently ranked at the top of their league with an average auto score of 52.2 points, right? And so with that means they've crossed that threshold of just having both robots park, and on average, they are getting 2 to 3 cones on those high junctions, or in their case where they're scoring on the low junction, they're actually averaging 4 cones on the low junction. And I think one thing that makes them so highly ranked in the world is how fast they are at teleop. You can just see how easily they're able to maneuver around the field, and even though they have a large bot, they can just go from any junction all the way over to the human player station and then just back and forth. And they've really killed it this season, and we'll see how they fare at Colorado State's, but I imagine it'll be pretty well. Caden?
In 19th place, we have 7172 Technical Difficulties from Texas. They were a part of the winning alliance at the New Mexico Alamogordo qualifiers, and we'll see them compete this weekend at the Colorado Broomfield qualifier, along with other top teams like Upper Creek, Kooky Bots, and Quality Control. This team has completely redesigned their bot since we last saw it at their League Meet 1, and is by far one of the most unique robot designs we have seen this season. They use 2 long crane-like arms to grab cones and deposit them around the field. The reach that this robot has to various junctions on the field is insane, but may pose some difficulties when trying to deposit fast. I'm excited to see the improvements that they plan to make on this robot throughout the season.
Yeah, and Caden, Technical Difficulties is just one of those teams that if someone's going to go for one of those crazy designs, they'll be one of the ones who can implement it. Last year, they were just so fast. And, actually a little fun fact, I was looking at their match history, and they went 99-8-0 last season. They almost hit 100 wins in official matches, which is just so crazy to think about.
Well, that's official match play?
Insane.
Well, official match play plus MTI. So on registered events on FTC events, they were 99-8-0.
That's even crazy to think of that a team can play that many matches. I mean, I know, with FTC, you all get an opportunity to rebuild a little bit more than I think FRC does, but regardless, they get that much match play in. That's awesome. At least you get good value too. So
Yeah, that's just
So,
crazy.
boss, I gotta
Um,
ask you, Caden, too. What do you guys think of this camera angle? This kind of trips me out a little bit, having
I
this top
I
down.
really wish we had a different one. I'm sure there's just so much to dive into about that robot, but unfortunately, this camera angle is not very revealing. But hopefully, this weekend at Colorado, they'll have a better one, and we can see a little bit more there. So, but I guess we'll see. Um, Going on to our 18th spot, we have our first Michigan team. That's Team 19561 Tiger Tech Black. They currently have the fifth highest OPR in the world from mid-December, and we're on the semifinalist alliance at the Michigan State Championship in the Woody Flowers division. They have some unique aspects to their design, with the intake being on a turret. But at the same time, they also share many design elements that we've seen in a lot of successful robots. Some sort of alignment mechanism, the ability to just run their intake into the cone at full speed, and very fast extensions. It's a shame they won't be at the Houston World Championship, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see a lot of designs like theirs continue to pop up in the top 25, but also compete at the Houston World Championship. It's just like such a high level competitive design. And we can see like this far into the match, like they're just able to sit there and put cone after cone onto the high junction. But I think this design also lends itself very well to traverse around the field, and with some software enhancements, maybe pick up cones very, very quickly, no matter where they're positioned. Kaden, any thoughts about this team?
It's definitely interesting also seeing two of those robots on the field.
Yeah, I believe that's their sister team, Tiger Tech Orange. So kind of strange how Tiger Tech Black was the one voted for top 25, but who knows?
Yeah.
Maybe just more of that team has to come out and vote, or more of the community has to come out and vote for Tiger Tech
It's
Orange.
clearly rigged. That's the answer.
All right, Kaden, why don't you go on?
Up next is Team 3858, the Bosons. This team has been in the previous top 25 and continues to show a performance. They have a very interesting strategy that lines up to the pole before releasing the cone onto the junctions, scoring an entire stack. It's crazy to think what else they needed to do to make the robot efficient when it already works so well.
Yeah, I think it's pretty interesting how like they have such a fast virtual four bar flipping that cone around, and with so much inertia, but they're still like just so stable. Like that robot just does not budge on the field. And do you think that's like an indication of some counterweighting mechanisms, or just like an extremely light deposit?
I mean, it could be possible that it's counterweighted, but I mean, weight, or I guess mass in that case is always going to be important if you counterweight it because you still have to accelerate that arm around.
Yeah, definitely. It'd be interesting to see if like they have some sort of counter springing or anything going on. Kaden, why don't you go on to the next team?
In the 16th spot, we have 13356 RoboForce from California. They are currently ranked first in their league and have achieved a solo half-field score of 230 points. For a robot that doesn't have a horizontal extension for either their intake or outtake, they have super fast cycles on the high junction near the substation. One of the features of this bot that sticks out is the pole guide that they've mounted on the back of the robot. This allows for them to easily line up to the junctions when depositing.
Yeah, and I think something that's really interesting with this junction guide that they have is how wide it is, right? Like it's a lot more flat than we've seen other junction guides. Like I feel like typically the junction guides we see are like they try to vector the pole or the junction as quickly as they can, but then just have like that U-shaped divot on the inside so that like they don't touch the junction at more than one point. And so, Kaden, do you think this is more of a design that we'll see, or do you think this was just like a robot constraint that they had to make it so like more horizontal or flat than typical designs?
I mean, I think it's definitely part of a robot constraint because you don't really want it to stick farther outside of the bot. So like when
Mhm.
you're driving in the field, it doesn't like hit on a pole or something. But we could start seeing like guides that may flip out or something. I've seen
Mhm.
it. I think Juice has something like that that flips
Yeah.
down onto the field, and that may allow for a larger guide.
Yeah, and RoboForce, we did a fantastic behind the bots with them, and it's they definitely one thing we talked about in their interview was the fact that how when they're iterating through different subsystems, they use different materials for each stage, right? So like in their first prototypes, they'll always use some sort of like acrylic or wood or just something that's very easy to laser cut, and then that's how they validate that design. And then in their later designs, like the more final stage ones, they'll move on to something metal. And so I think we can see that they're like keeping that philosophy here using a like wood laser cut guide. And then I'm sure in the future they'll transition to polycarbonate, carbon fiber, aluminum, just something more fitting like for the overall robot.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's perfect for prototyping, and yeah, you always want to fail fast and get those iterations out so you can overall have the best design out there.
Definitely. And, talking about teams we did fantastic behind the bots with, let's go on to the 15th spot. This team was the actually first behind the bot we released from like virtually this season, and that's none other than 11970 Titanium Talents from Washington. They have an extremely fast extension and excellent control of their intake in autonomous and teleop. And one thing that I find really interesting about their strategy is how they specifically designed their robot to like always go for that further high junction in autonomous. And or actually, I think they may have changed it, but it seems like they have a lot more horizontal extension than is typical from other teams. And Caden, do you think like having this horizontal extension and like extra slide stages are worth it, or would it be better to sort of reduce that, have lighter slides or lighter deposit, and then just drive more?
I think it definitely helps them for sure.
Mhm,
So, in the terms of cycle time, they can extend out really fast, and then not have to drive back as far to the substation grabbing another cone.
mhm.
And definitely during auto, it helps a lot for being able to place on that farther high junction to ensure that they're not going to be hitting another team's robot.
Sure. And I believe the Washington Tech Invitational, which is just like a sort of a preparation competition for Washington States, is either this weekend. Yeah, it's this weekend. And so we'll be seeing, I think they'll be there. And so, we'll see if they have like any new features that they're going to show off, or it's just like consistency improvements, even though they were already so consistent. Then, on the topic of Washington, let's introduce our 14th place team, and that's team 14179 Sushi Squad. They have just been killing it this year, being the winning alliance captain at their very tough interleague competition. First selected at their qualifier in New Mexico this past weekend, and just constantly putting up high scores. I think the most defining feature of this bot is just how well they're able to control their arm. I mean, that thing has to be like at least 8-10 inches from center to center, and then their claw is definitely not like it's not very small or anything at all. It has quite a large footprint, and it seems like it's just super stable throughout the entire match, and they just never have any issues like waiting for it to stabilize when picking up the cone, dropping it off on the junction, anything. And we can see them on the screen right now. They've just cycled 3 different junctions at completely different heights in like 10-15 seconds. Just really a testament to their versatility on the field. And do you think this design is something we'll see more of at high level competitions, of like a turret with an arm, or do you think we'll see more teams transitioning to that turret slides design?
I think turret is definitely gonna be part of the design, having it spin around so you can score on like the right side of you or behind you.
Mm.
Giving that flexibility to a team is gonna be really important. But as far as like slides or a virtual floor bar, I think it really depends on the application and how the teams use that certain mechanism. And really determines, how fast it is.
Yeah, that's definitely well said. And I think you made a really good point. Like, I know I mentioned that they scored on 3 different junctions so quickly, but building off of what you said is they didn't turn a single degree between any of those deposits or pickups, right? It was just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth for all 3 cycles. And that definitely led to a much lower cycle time and just really fast overall. Why don't you
Yep.
go on?
Next on the list, we have 19708, the Emerald Bots from Washington. They won the Connect Award as well as the Control Award second place at the Washington Tesla Interleague Tournament. This team goes to show that you don't need a super complicated robot to do well. With a small MACHINA drivetrain and a single 4-stage lift, this team is able to efficiently move around the field and score on junctions.
Yeah, I think we've seen a lot more like campaigning for FTC top 25 votes, and I think one of their slogans or one of the defining features of their campaign this month was that they have like the smallest drivetrain that they've seen. So definitely very, very compact. Do you think they may potentially have any like tipping issues, Caden, or nothing yet like that?
Um, at least from what I've seen so far, not really. But
Mhm.
if they start to drive faster, they could see some issues. I know like the small bot will help them navigate the field a lot better. So going at a higher speed around the junctions is going to be um probably part of their strategy. So yeah, we'll see how they deal with tipping in the future.
Yep. And so going on to our 12th place, this won't be the last time I'm saying this tonight, but here is another team from Washington. This time it's team 16379, the Kookie Bots. This past weekend, they competed in New Mexico and officially hit the highest individual auto score we've seen from a team in competition at 1 plus 7 additional cones and a park for a total of 60 points in autonomous and then an additional 40 in teleop. So they started with 100 points on their match score the second that teleop timer began. And they're the first team to hit a 1 plus 10 auto, and I can't wait to see how it'll go this weekend in Colorado if they're able to fix some of their consistency issues. But Caden, do you think, like, with so many teams coming to Colorado, they'll be able to hold their own, or is their consistency something that they'll have to work on more and will be like one of the main problem causers?
Yeah, I think consistency is just going to be the most important part of it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, you can have a 1+5, but you need to make sure you get it every single match. Like a consistent 1+4 or 1+3 is always going to be better than 1+5 that works like half the time. So yeah, I think consistency is just important.
Sure. And I'm sure that team has definitely identified that as something they need to work on. So definitely, hopefully we'll see some improvements to that this weekend. And so going on to 11th place, this team is not from Washington. It's team 11039, the Innovators from California. And they've just managed to make great use of a turret and pivot arms to get all the cones flawlessly onto the junctions. We talked about them last month on the top 25, and they currently have the top score in NorCal set this past weekend at 266 points, putting them at the 5th highest score in the world. And last month they were first in OPR, and looks like they haven't changed much about their bot, which makes a lot of sense. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And this team has definitely kept to that philosophy. And the only thing that really worries me about them, not their speed, their accuracy, any of that, but it's just like at higher levels of competition with more defense, do you think the robot will be robust enough, to withstand what we've seen like in prior seasons? Or do you think they'll have to make some changes and beef up some of their mechanisms, Caden?
Yeah, I think definitely beefing up some of the mechanisms would help. Or bringing replacements. They could keep their mechanisms light, but it could happen that something breaks. They just need to be ready to fix it after that match. But yeah, I really like this robot. It's very simple and it works insanely well.
Do you think this is a design like we'll see more teams adapting as the season goes on? Or like personally, I feel like there's a lot of like mechanical tricks and software tricks that they've put in that are very difficult to see. Just like by watching a match video, that like if another team were to try and implement the same design, they would have a lot of trouble if they didn't like do those same things.
Yeah, so I think the definitely the preset positions that they're using to score on
Mhm.
the various junction heights help them in a lot. So I mean, if you're trying to control each degree of freedom with like a joystick on the controller, it would
Mhm.
be insanely hard, and it would ultimately lend to like very long cycle times and be very difficult to coordinate everything.
Yeah, but like even just more than that, like everything's just so rigid and like so smooth at the same time, and definitely very impressive. But why don't we start our top 10?
In a 10th spot, we have team 11329 Ice Robotics. This team is currently ranked first by OPR in Indiana. With a long virtual 4-bar and vertical slides, this team is easily able to grab off the stack in auto and place on any junction height. This season, we have seen a lot of teams use a virtual 4-bar to do a pass through to the back of the robot. It is just one of those mechanisms that works very well for a wide range of teams. I also just have to say that this is one of the coolest looking robots I've seen this season. I always enjoy seeing a team go for a certain color scheme or aesthetic on the robot, and the team has done a very good job at doing that.
Yeah, definitely. I think you've really capsulated this robot pretty well. I'm really excited to see how they do. Indiana definitely has some decent teams always. It'll be interesting to see like how many slots they get this season, and I'm really hoping we see Ice Robotics at the World Championship.
Yep. Okay, for our 9th spot, coming from Australia, is team 12993 RoboKings Alpha. This team maintains a top spot for how well they performed in their prior competitions. Since they're in break, I'm sure they have a lot of time to make vast improvements before they go to Worlds.
Yeah, and they already are qualified for Worlds, so I'm sure that must be a huge relief to RoboKings Alpha. And Caden, with a design that's already so competitive, do you think we'll see a redesign from this team, or are they just going to relax a little bit and just keep practicing for Worlds?
I think their overall design concept works really, really well. I think
Mhm.
they might just improve some of their mechanisms to make it faster or their motion more fluid. But the intake that they have right there, I mean that works insanely well. And it's gonna be really, really useful when they're driving to the junction or the substation really fast to grab cones.
Yeah, and I remember like last year up a creek, what they did for Worlds is like they just rebuilt their robot, but or maybe even states, but they rebuilt their robot with like 99% the design was the same and just made small tweaks here and there. With the materials that they used for different subsystems or lengths and ratios for things, just made small tweaks and overall resulted in a bit better and a little bit more consistent of a robot, but wasn't like anything super risky because they always had that other robot, just sitting right there for them to use.
I'm not sure if I can tell. Is that a laser cut wood robot for the chassis?
Yeah, so this was like their earlier iteration of the robot, and so they did laser cut a lot of the things. I guess they just weren't expecting like a lot of defense, which is definitely the right call. But then for the Australia National Championship, they were running like a metal chassis and just like a more typical material selection for everything. Yeah. And so going on to our eighth seed, or eighth place, we have a team from Maryland. That's 19458 Equilibrium.EXE from Potomac. They were on our top 25 last month as well, and they've just been steadily improving since their last competition. They have a qualifier this weekend, and with having a bit more than a month to make changes, it'll be interesting to see like what they do. Chesapeake States isn't very far from this qualifier, so I'm sure they won't try and make some super crazy changes between the qualifier and Chesapeake States, but maybe we'll see something like some improvements in the last month. And I'm sure like this team is always looking forward seeing how they can shave off those couple hundred milliseconds from their cycles and everything. So we will definitely see some improvements. I imagine here they got to have that like high cone auto. I know at their first qualifier they had a low cone auto that worked every single match. So that was very impressive. But I'm sure they're shooting for that same consistency on the high junction.
Yeah, I really think this team's cone guide it works really, really well. It's very cool to see something like that on a bot. And I believe it also has a color sensor on it to detect the cones. And
Yeah,
I'm sure
so
that lends to their consistency.
yeah, and we did a fantastic behind the bot with this. They went super detailed into their nose picker, as they call it, and they have a bunch of sensors on that, as well as onto their cone guide or cone funnel. And that's also very sensorized and sensor infused. So really, really great team, and I'm glad they're so highly ranked because they definitely deserve it. So going on to the seventh spot, we have team 16458 Techno Wizards from San Antonio, Texas. They had a 1+5 autonomous at their third league meet this past weekend and are currently ranked fourth in the world. Already incredible, their design looks like it has so much more potential. It's interesting how they intentionally transfer the cones at an angle in the robot, and I feel like once they shave off some of those weights they have throughout the autonomous period, they'll be well on their way to scoring more than just the one autonomous stack. And I'm glad that this is like a new team we're seeing on the top 25. It's always interesting to see like the fresh robots every month. And this is just a design I'm really excited to show like to the rest of the community. I'm glad it's getting a lot more publicity because they have some really cool features.
Apparently, they made this video for top 25 consideration.
Yeah.
Apparently, we're getting like the 4-year consideration videos now, which I mean, it's pretty. I think that's awesome, but kudos to them.
Yep. Yeah, and Texas is definitely going to be a tough region to advance out of. But I know they also have like a lot of advancement spots this season. So I really hope Techno Wizards is able to take one of those and compete at the World Championship.
In the sixth spot, we have a team from California. It's 14259 Turbo V8. This team is currently ranked second in California by OPR and was on the winning alliance at both the NorCal Piedmont and Santa Clara qualifying tournaments. With their 1+7 auto, Turbo V8 is one of the few teams to achieve over 1+5 cone auto. The horizontal slides for their intake and the angled slides for their deposit allows for this robot to cycle very fast. Before we go on to the fifth spot, let's talk about tonight's giveaway.
Yeah, so we have from our friends at Axon Robotics, they are giving away an Axon Mini. So if you're interested in winning more about this, don't forget you do need to be following the channel in order to be eligible to win on this. And the keyword is just going to be Axon. Axon, by the way, if you're listening, we need a new keyword for you for next time. So, but yeah, type Axon in chat right now. that's your opportunity to win. Don't forget, we do give a little bit extra luck to our subscribers because we just rig it that way. By the way, if you don't know about Axon Robotics, they're a student-run company that focuses on developing innovative products and solutions for First Tech Challenge. And the Axon Mini features a titanium powertrain, aluminum case, and high-efficiency brushless motor with 7.5 watts of power into an affordable and compact package. And by the way, one of the random teams will be announced in the FTC Top 25 will be winning an Axon Mini Plus. We'll announce that and the winner of this from chat in just a little bit after our number one team as well too. And by the way, I do also want to thank our sponsor of the show, Kettering University, who's continued to be a great sponsor of fun. If you are looking to get a fantastic scholarship, Kettering scholarships are still available up to $5,000 per year, renewable year after year. About 30% of students that go to Kettering University were in high school robotics. So if you're looking for a place that you're going to fit right in, make sure you head on over to kettering.edu/first to learn more about what Kettering has to offer. Of course, they have their combat combat robotics team. They're trying to get in the BattleBots as well. Amazing First Center for you to check out too. So head on over to kettering.edu/first, learn more about their scholarships, what they have available, and see if it's a good fit for you. And thanks a lot to Kettering University for supporting First Updates Now.
All right. And before we continue with our top 25, Kate, I just want to ask, being on Java the Hutts, are you guys planning on using any Axon servos, or are you using them already, or, are you thinking about using them in the future?
We're for sure going to use them in the future. Right now, it's just getting our existing design consistent and then kind of moving on to Axons and cutting our cycle time down a bit with the fast motion that they give you.
Cool. Yeah, it's definitely really important for teams to know, like, it's not, it won't just make your system work magically. Like, it's about using it to improve, like, the existing system, as you've said so well, Caden. So in fifth place is our final team from Washington for tonight. That's team 21229 Quality Control. They currently have the second highest score in the world at 274 points, with a perfect autonomous from both them and their alliance partner, 11970, who we talked about earlier. They've been a bit quiet since the last month, but I'm really excited to see what they've got cooking for this weekend's competition in Colorado. With this autonomous, looks like they've cut down their 1+5 time from near 30 seconds all the way down to 20, maybe hinting at like more than 1+5. We'll see if they go for that this weekend. But I think one of the really defining features of Quality Control is their name, in the sense that they really make sure they have a lot of quality control and are very consistent in their design. They had a 1+5 autonomous plus a park every single match at their interleague competition, which is just so tough to do. And definitely a testament to a lot of time spent just tuning and making sure everything is consistent. And Caden, one question I have for you is, with a design like this nearing optimization, what do you think they should improve next, or where do you think they could save time?
I think probably, if I had to say one thing, it might be their slides, just how fast the slides go out. Yeah, I think that'd be it. Their intake already works flawlessly, and having those Axon servos allows it to spin very, very fast back and transfer extremely consistently.
Yeah, for me, although we showed their autonomous, I think their teleop, they're already maxing out on the cones and stuff, but I think if they just do a little bit more driver practice, and maybe just play some more matches, they'd definitely be just finishing faster, which definitely lends them more time at the end of the game to make decisions on the fly if they need to change anything, or if some special circumstance arises from the other alliance, playing defense or putting cones on specific junctions, going for ownership, what have you. So why don't we go on to our fourth spot, Caden?
Coming from New Jersey is Team 9889 Cruise Control. This team was able to achieve the formal world record at a score of 274 points. Okay, this team was able to achieve such a high feat because of how fast the deposit system was. It automatically went to the right height for the right junction right away. There was no time wasted in trying to align the height. It was just boom, drop, and on to the next one.
Yeah, and I think Quality Control, they have one of those designs that's a little easier. That's a little easier for a lot of teams to implement, but something that they do really well that we've seen is definitely just how fluid everything is. It's just they're able to, as you said, boom, drop, and right on to the next one. And we did a fantastic behind the bot with them, and really just showing how much consistency they have, how much driver practice they have. I think one of the things that I remember from the behind the bot is I was asking them like, how do they do driver practice? Like if there's anything special they do. And they said like, oh yeah, we'll just chuck a few toolboxes across like around the field and then just use those to act like robots that are just sitting there and, you know, like impede our way and like make us drive like in different places around the field. So definitely interesting strategy. I wonder if any other teams will try that this season and, you know, how much luck they'll have with it. So definitely pretty cool. Kaden, you want to talk about our third spot?
In third place, we have 8393, the giant diencephalic brainstem robotics team. This team is currently ranked at number 10 in the world by OPR. They're also on the winning alliance, or they're winning alliance captains at Pennsylvania, Red and Black, and the CHS Christiansburg qualifiers. While a lot of teams this year went with a pass-through system where a cone would be outtaken out the back of the robot, Brainstem had decided to go with a side outtake system. This works exceptionally well for them as it allows them to place on junctions that are across the field with very fast and minimal adjustment before placing a cone.
Yeah, and one thing that I find very interesting about Brainstem that I've seen like in the last couple years is they'll build a bot, do super well with it, but then still decide to like rebuild to make like an even faster one. And do you think they'll go like for that same strategy this year, Caden, or do you think like they've settled on this and they'll just work on like making slight improvements to it?
I think for right now it'd be important to just get everything consistent. I know in that video they did I believe 1+5 onto the short pole. So maybe
Mm-hmm.
seeing that design get 1+5 on the high pole would definitely be interesting. Um yeah.
Yeah, and you know, like talking about rebuilds and just like the meta in general, I think we can spend some time about this. Last season, Brainstem, they originally had, I think originally they had like the turret slides design, but then later switched to like more of a like a crane system, and it was pretty interesting. Definitely very competitive with both designs, and it'll be interesting to see like what they decide to do this year. I feel like personally with them, they won't be satisfied with just by like being limited to the 90s for their deposit, and they really want to like have that full 360-degree control for their turret, and you're just having like the whole flexibility on the field. And of course, I think we'll definitely see them going for that 1+5 on the high junction. But I think it was more of a matter of just like consistency and timing and those types of things, because Brainstem definitely likes to make sure they're very consistent each match.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. And so looks like these top three spots are being taken by the old guard of FTC. In second, we have team 12599 from Portland, Oregon. That's overcharged. And they are similar to Brainstem in that they have a horizontal extension on their turret and vertical lift, but they have a lot more freedom in that they can turn more than 180 degrees and go like all the way around. And one thing that really separates overcharged is just how smooth they are throughout the match. Basically zero mistakes. And I'm sure this is aided by their junction alignment tool. And it's also pretty interesting how they're able to just swing their whole deposit around even when it's fully extended. You know, Caden, we were talking earlier tonight about like how teams like CLUELESS and Brainstem and all these, like they have these super fast turrets and they whip them around. But with overcharged, it's really interesting how they keep it out the whole time and still get that 1+5, and it's just so consistent. What do you think about that?
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. It just shows that they built their turret very rigid.
Hmm.
Yeah, and then their cone guide as well helps them a lot when aligning onto that high pole. I think it's something that we're definitely going to see a lot more teams do. Is something to kind of align the robot with the pole during auto, just to ensure that they always get that 1+5.
Yeah, and you know, you mentioned that color sensor on their sister team, Revamp's intake, and looks like they have a similar design going on. And you know, it's definitely working well for both teams. And for our numbers people out there, they averaged 222 points in their matches 2 weeks ago with a non-penalty OPRC of 165, putting them currently at second in the world for OPR. And Caden, do you think this turret slide design is going to be the meta, or will it be something else?
I mean, it's definitely interesting. We're seeing a lot of teams do it, like Clueless, of course, Overcharge, even Delta Force. Yeah.
Hmm.
So I think the turret slides definitely gives teams a lot of flexibility when placing on different junctions and whatnot.
Hmm.
Um, but I guess I think we're gonna see coming up to like some states competitions. We're gonna see which designs are gonna become the meta.
All right. All right. And drum roll, please, for our number 1 team. So, in typical fashion, we have the top team in the FTC Hall of Fame returning right around January to reclaim the number 1 spot. 8644, the Brainstormers, needs no introduction. They've just absolutely smashed it this season with their robot design, having the first pass-through turret that I've seen, and they are averaging almost 20 points more in OPR every match than the second team in the world right now. And they're just so fast. Although all parts of their robot are just incredible, I think what sets them apart for me is their intake. They have the fastest intaking I've seen this season. I mean, we can just see it on camera right now, just shooting their claw into the cone, slamming it against the wall, and then retracting immediately. It's just like so fast, and I think that's definitely what sets them apart and really just is going to elevate them at higher levels of competition. Do you have like any thoughts about the intaking or even just the overall robot design, Caden?
The intaking, yeah, it's amazing. It's flawless throughout the match, as well as having that pass through on the turret gives them so much flexibility to place on those junctions.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see like what slides they're running. I can't tell like exactly from the video, but I feel like they're using some sort of like linear rail for the last stage of their slide, because it looks like we don't see any like javelins stick out past their arm or anything like that. And just going like back and forth. A linear rail would definitely be like the right application for that. But looks like, in my opinion, after speeding up their first 2 deposits in autonomous, they'll be really well on their way to the 1+10. And I'm really interested to see if they get it. So before we wrap up for tonight, let's roll for the lucky people who get to try out some Axon Mini servos. Tyler, want to take it away?
Yeah, sure. Let's draw for our top 25 team first. That's going to get the Axon Mini Plus, and that is going to be number 16. So that's going to be 13356. Congratulations. So that's ROBOFORCE, I believe. Is that right, boss?
Yeah.
So congratulations to ROBOFORCE. We'll post in the FTC Discord, in the fun Discord, so a rep can claim from that. And let's roll for the audience giveaway, and that's going to be for a Axon Mini, and that's going to be Jefferson Walker. Congratulations, Jefferson. Make sure you shoot First Updates Now, that's me, a message in either Twitch chat or on Discord, so you can claim that prize. And thanks again to Axon Robotics for the great giveaways once again, and make sure you check them out at Axon Robotics.
Yep. Caden, why don't you lead us out?
Thank you all for the follows and subscriptions we've received today. Don't forget that you can subscribe for free through Twitch Gaming. We hope you enjoyed this episode of FTC Top 25. If you want to stay connected with First Updates Now, FTC, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at FunFTC, and join our Discord through the link in the chat.
Yeah, and on behalf of myself, Caden, and our producer Tyler, working behind the scenes and on camera today, I would like to thank you all for tuning in. Please keep an eye out for future new FTC content coming out on YouTube, and for when the FTC Top 25 poll opens up for next month. Bye, everyone.
This video on First Updates Now is made possible by viewers like you and also the following sponsors. At Kettering University, over 30% of the student population was in high school robotics. These same students have received a portion of over $7 million in scholarships. Scholarship applications for FIRST students are now available. Get more information at kettering.edu/first. Check out our all-new FTC content coming to Fun's YouTube in February, including new hosts from the FTC community. We'll have resource guides, top 10 moments, behind the bots interviews, and walkthroughs to help your FTC team improve at youtube.com/firstupdatesnow. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and ring the bell to stay up to date on our new videos. Keep the conversation going and provide your input to our content. Watch our live shows at twitch.tv/firstupdatesnow. Join our Discord at discord.gg/firstupdatesnow, and check out Fun FTC on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, and First Updates Now on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter.